Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is, let's see, it's December 14th when I'm recording this, but you guys will be seeing this on the 15th, which is Friday. And yeah, so I was just over at StockCharts headquarters down in Redmond, a few minutes away from them. So I was there on Wednesday, which was the day of the FOMC. And you guys can see we did here's a little sneak peek of one of the things we did, but also I was on the final bar yesterday with Dave Keller. If you guys want to go check it out on their YouTube page, and you can see that both of us are like, what is going on here? Because I had just arrived to StockCharts headquarters, and I looked at the charts, and everything was straight up, and I was just absolutely floored. I couldn't believe it that the market went straight up like that. Just because Jerome Powell was saying, yeah, we're kind of everything's the same. And then I guess the key word was we do see weakening or slowing down of the economy, which means that they are, still they're more likely that they're going to reduce interest rates. So the market just absolutely loved it, and of course that's why the market is up. One of the things that Dave and I were talking about was here the breadth. Everything is just pegged to the upside, which makes it a little challenging to want to jump in on this thing up here after 2 days of really being up big and after everything being already up. I mean, the 200-day, the 50-day, and the 20-day, I mean, they don't get much higher than this. So it's a little challenging to want to be chasing some of these things. I do have some ideas of places that I am interested, but really I think, sure, we could keep going up. Maybe this is going to be 2020 all over again. Even during 2020, these things oscillated, and so that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking for. Also, the put-call ratio during 2020 basically broke. The 10-day moving average of the put-call ratio stayed low and just stayed low the entire time, and that just kept the market going. It didn't care about the put-call ratio, so we don't know. Maybe the put-call ratio is going to be broken again. The only other thing that I could be looking for with this breadth situation is maybe seeing if the 20-day can kind of cycle down, give us some breathing room, and then go back up. That would be one thing that I look for as a market-wide indicator to say that yes, things have backed off and maybe there's a buy the dip. But otherwise, we'll just have to see how much oomph this market has and how far it can go. And isn't this an incredible sight? Look at that. Wow. Wow. The only other thing, if I took the contrarian side of this, the only thing that makes me concerned about this, again, with the breadth being totally maxed out, is that when you get these kind of big spikes, that tends to be the high. Even this one, we had a big spike, and that was the high. So I just always in the back of my brain, I'm looking at this and just thinking, okay, where's the trap? Where do we need to be careful about? And that is my thought. So just trying to be careful out there. Let's first start with the TNX. Why is the market ripping the way it is? Well, the TNX, the interest rates are coming down. This was the peak of the market right there, and you can see that correlated with November. This is something that when I was doing the Orlando Money Show over the Halloween weekend, so right about there, right there, I said that the TNX was very high and likely to pull back probably somewhat soon, and that when it does, the market will go up. I had no idea it was going to do this, but this is what the market likes, and right here you can see it dropped even further when Jerome Powell started to speak and confirm all that. You could also see that the dollar was another thing that started to come down, and I called this a bear flag right there, and that also worked out very, very well. So nice call for me on that one. I was on the mic in the options room over at simplertrading.com, which is where I host everything. And you could argue that price maybe got kind of rejected by the daily 50. I know it's not that close, but maybe that kind of idea. And you can see here that the 8 stayed below the 21 the entire time. The Moxie indicator was below 0 the whole time, and price just ran right smack into the underside of a downtrending hourly 200. So yeah, that's another thing to help kind of fuel everything to the upside. Obviously, we know the SPY is just on fire, absolutely on fire. Again, it's getting excessive, so we kind of have to ask ourselves, like, how far up can this go? The only kind of thing that I would then mention is if we did kind of come back here and we looked at 2020, because this thing was also on fire, there are times where it pulls back. And you can see that those times are kind of very similar as to what we were expecting, like right now. So I just look at this, and even during 2020, we've had a heck of a run like this, and then there was the kind of blow off top, and then you got to pull back, and it kept going, sure. And then we had another run that kind of culminated in that. The only other thing I could look at here, this was really when things got lit off. That was when the presidential election was settled, and then things definitely took off to the upside. If we did look at the IWM, this is another thing, like right there. That's the other thing to be looking for. Yes, it got outside of that 30 ATR. It then settled in a little bit and then started to run. So do keep that in mind. And you can see here 30 ATR, 30 ATR, 30 ATR. They always pull back. I mean, right there, 30 ATR. They always pull back when they get above the 30 ATR, and same thing there. And so that's why I'm looking at our current situation. And yeah, whew, that's wow, So do you want to buy that? That's a tough one. That's a tough one to want to go buy that. But if this sustains, then all we're trying to do is look for when price can kind of settle in. Here's another thing to look at. Notice that line. Maybe I can draw it a little bit better, but right there, right there. It's a tough one. So I'm not saying that don't do anything or whatever, but I'm just saying that let's see if it can settle in and then start to go up. I'd be okay with that. I'm not saying this thing needs to crash and burn or anything, but it just feels like it needs to kind of come in a little bit. Now, also, we know that the Nasdaq, we got this, everything's up, looking really, really great, previous high and all that stuff. But check this out, QQQE, which is the equal weight, yeah, on fire. This means the whole market is working. The whole market, it's not just the Magnificent Seven. If you look at the RSP, which is the equal weight for the SPY, everything is working. I mean, this thing is on fire. The IWM is on fire. So yes, everything is working. Now the question is, are we overbought? And everything would argue yes, but I guess that can keep going for a while. So just make sure you have the positions that look good for you. Then we can head over to GDX. And I'm a little bummed. I was on the road when this was happening. I was on the road driving to StockCharts when the FOMC came out. I had just gotten off the mic from our options room and the Moxie room at simplertrading.com, and I was telling everybody about the GDX coming back into the daily 50. And I said, you know what? I'm looking for an entry. It should be something around here. I have to wait. I couldn't see it at the time because it hadn't moved yet. And then we get FOMC, and clearly this thing launches. So yes, I think that precious metals, GDX, gold, I think these things are going to start doing well. And really just it's a matter of finding your entry. I think these things are going to get going. I'm seeing really good stuff across the board. You can also look at something like GFI, clearly good names moving along. I was even doing this. I was on the KE report maybe 2 weeks ago, and I said, buy the dip on precious metals. And that's also what happened here. And we can even look at GLD, same thing. And really, we're going to have to, let me look here on the higher time frame, because if you look at GLD, yes, this thing has had a really tough time getting past this level. But if it can, where can it go? And it sure looks to me like it's ready to go. So yeah, looking very, very interesting. All right, the other thing that we can be looking at is either interest rate sensitive stocks, meaning something like W, because maybe people buy a lot of things here and they're going to put on credit. And that matters because of interest rates. And so something like W up, you can see there's the Moxie price trigger, there's the Moxie price trigger. So we've got really, really good signals telling us to go. Not to mention this pretty much pulled into the daily 50 and then shot up like that. So, W is doing great. Carvana, think about that. Think about people and, interest rates for car leases and all that stuff. There was a thing back here, a trampoline move and a flag right into the hourly 50. So that is up. Just kind of find your way in there. LABU, this is another one that I've been watching. I actually thought that there was going to be a pullback, but because of the FOMC and interest rates, no pullback. No pullback. There was a little bit of a pullback right there. I thought there was going to be more. Apparently not. And the reason LabU is up because biotech is very sensitive to interest rates. Most of these companies, they're startups, they're experimental, they burn cash. So they need a lot of cheap or inexpensive cash in order to keep afloat. And so LabU is on fire with the idea of interest rates getting reduced. And then TAN for solar, that's another area. And not just because solar needs lower interest rates in order to develop and grow or anything that's like that. It's more about consumers. Think about consumers that people don't just buy $30,000 or $40,000 worth of solar panels and plop them on their house. They roll them into their mortgage and the house, their monthly cost. So interest rates are also really, really important for solar and all that. And you can see here it's been higher lows and finally starting to come up. So I would keep an eye on solar as well. There are a few names out there that are starting to pick up, and you got to think about why. What's the theme? What's the theme out there? All right, guys. Thanks again, and I will see you next week. Take care.